All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Stop Questioning Everything, the official Drug Receipts podcast. Drug Receipts is the brand at the convergence of art and technology. We're bridging the gap between IRL and URL. And we always promote the pillars of art and subversion, science and skepticism, community and sport. We aim to bring you content with mind altering substance. My name is Arlo Eisenberg. I'm the host. Today is August 18th, 2022 in America. In New Zealand, it is August 19th, and this is episode number 15, if you can believe it. We have a very special episode for you today. We're going to do our routine checkup. We'll check in with Jesse, and we'll go over some of the latest news items, and there's a lot of really exciting stuff to cover. We've got Drug Wars launching this week. We've got some hoodie updates. But we have a very special guest this week. And I feel like, we always say that every week, and it's always true. We love all of our guests, and they are always special. But in terms of the special guest iceberg list or tier list or food chain, this is about as high as it goes. This is the top of the list. We've got McDonald joining us today from the Futureverse. So we're very excited about getting into some conversation with him. And then after that, we will get into our news items and go through all of the other stuff, all the other Drug Receipts content that you know and love. So without any further ado, I think we are going to introduce our first guest here, our very special guest. And hopefully, for the first time, I'm billing this as a special episode. It's in no small part because of our very special guest, but also because I think we're going to finally have some fanfare with our title cards. So we'll wish us luck. This is something that we've been working toward for many, many months, and we'll see if we finally can pull it off. But so our special guest today, I mentioned, it's Aaron McDonald from Futureverse. Aaron is Yeah, well, I hope that was worth it. I was just in the middle of giving you a proper introduction, but there's your title card with fanfare. But let me go ahead and pay you all. Welcome, Aaron. So Aaron is the CEO of the New Zealand-based tech venture platform, Centrality, but he's also one of the co-founders. He's a CEO of Non-Fungible Labs and the Futureverse. So for most of you in here watching and that will be listening to this, he really doesn't need an introduction. Aaron is one of the central personalities and key figures right at the center of this entire operation. So very happy to have you on, Aaron. Thanks for making some time to join us here.
No. Pleasure is mine. Glad to be here. Hope we can have some fun today.
Well, we're certainly going to try. In my haste to get you on here, I think I probably also breezed through some of the housekeeping introductory stuff that normally we would get through. But if you are listening to this on a podcast or through a podcast service, just know that this is a YouTube broadcast. So we will have some visual aids that we're showing throughout, but we will try to do our best to talk you through any visual content that we show. But we do always encourage you to check out the YouTube broadcast as well, because that's where you get the best experience. And you can see the very cool background behind Aaron with all the 3D characters from the FLUF ecosystem. So Aaron, welcome to Stop Questioning Everything, the Drug Receipts podcast. In doing research for this, one of the articles that I came across, right? Research is always a dangerous thing. I tell people, try not to Google me too much, but there's some good content on you out there. And one of the articles that I thought was a really great resource was the interview that you did for Business Desk. But one of the things that struck me about it was the format. So there's a brief introduction to who you are, not that dissimilar from the introduction we gave you here. But then basically it just sort of goes through kind of like, the sort of the greatest hits of your life, right? And there's never any questions. There's never any commentary from the interviewer. It's just sort of like, it's just going through, it's sound bites from you basically all the way through. And then at the end of the interview, there is a byline for the alleged interviewer. But it struck me as, the content was great, but the format struck me as somewhat odd. Were you actually interviewed? Did you speak to anyone?
Yeah, no, I talked to the guy for over an hour. It was a great interview, actually. Yeah, and that's the format I think they use for that series.
Ah,
is supposed to be kind of the greatest hits of your life,
I got
showing
it.
get a bit more of kind of the person behind the scenes that you wouldn't normally meet if you just understood them from a business point of view.
So he did the interview, he got all the
Yeah,
content, and then he distilled it down to
yeah,
those sound bites. That's great. So the reason I ask is because not too long ago I had an interview from an online magazine. I think it was called Authority Magazine, and there was an interviewer also, but they sent me a list of questions, and I answered
right.
the questions. Never heard from the interviewer. There was never any follow up, and then one day it was just published online. And I thought, well, but it said interview by, and it had the guy's name, and it has the byline, it says where he went to school and how he got into
Yeah.
journalism. And I'm like, what is this? And like, it's not an interview, right? I basically wrote an essay for like a couple of hours and
Yeah.
then sent it off to them.
Blog by Arlo.
Exactly. It was a blog, right? I provided blog content for them. But what it made me think of was, that's just one step removed from not even having the interviewer at all, right? An AI could just as easily be sending out questions and then taking the answers and then, putting out the content. So is the interviewer even really necessary? And then it brings up all these questions like, of all these occupations that will probably be replaced by AI very soon, if not eventually. But usually
in that case, he was actually pretty skilled at teasing the story out, So, I think in some cases, people feel really comfortable yarning on about their life, and then in some cases,
right.
you have to either coach them on that process or make sure that you get the interesting parts of it, and that's the bit I think maybe AIs will struggle with.
Right,
Like,
the editing
they
bit.
could follow a formula to
Mhm.
ask questions, but can they be inquisitive? That's at some stage, yes. Like eventually that happens, but I think that'd be one of the harder things to mimic.
Well, so when I read your piece, right, I just thought, oh, Aaron has written, they've sent him a bunch of questions and he has just written all this. But now hearing the way you've described it, yes, I don't want to unfairly malign the actual journalist who did good journalism and put together a good piece. But the appearance of it did definitely bring that to mind. It's like, whoa, this feels like, journalism 3.0, where the journalist is going to kind of be taken out of the mix.
Yeah.
And I think that when people talk about like the jobs that will be replaced by AI, a lot of consideration is given to kind of the manufacturing jobs and the blue collar jobs where automation and AI can kind of get the job done. But something that came up recently in our circles is because Midjourney has gotten so much attention lately with the incredible artwork that it's producing. Zero X Thulu is a project in our community. They've been using it a lot kind of in this stuff that they've been doing and creating their lore. But now it is so easy to come up with a concept and then just have a stunning visual representation of whatever you want to communicate. And so we have we are an art project and we have a lot of art friends, and kind of all of us as artists are looking around going, whoa, we didn't know we were going to be out of a job. We thought that was going to be one of the refuges, right? Like creativity, that's a space to go. And this is something that thingies are doing, right? Thingies, right? The thingies have talk about the similarity between what thingies are doing and what the Midjourney bots are doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, there's always, when technology comes along, there's always this kind of fear that we'll be replaced. Humans are probably a bit more resilient than we think they are, and when you look back at Photoshop or other things that came along and started to add value to creativity, people at that time, some people kind of got freaked out about whether they would have a job or not, or whether humans would have a job. And what tends to happen is technology expands creativity instead of taking it away. And we can look at something like artificial intelligence as assisting us in the process of being creative rather than replacing us. Maybe it will replace some tasks, but that will make more time to do other things or to be creative in other areas. And so I never get too worried about creativity being replaced by artificial intelligence. I totally agree that things that are kind of manual labor driven, or even processes like being an accountant, for example. Those kinds of things will be automated away, and what we'll be left with really is creativity. I think board Elon Musk tweeted out something today, which I often say myself, which is, in the near future, the job that most humans do will be entertaining other humans. And so the creative economy will be the economy that exists and persists the longest, because the other things will be the first and the easiest to automate out. And so Midjourney, like in my mind, shows us how we can get more people to be creative. Like I'm a shit artist, but now perhaps I can take ideas I have in my mind and express those in a way that I would have never been able to do before. So it creates more artists rather than fewer, and more creativity. And the other thing is, I think, like, you see a lot of what's coming out of these AI generated projects, and it is early days, so we have to be careful about kind of underestimating the future potential. But there is clearly a different aesthetic, even though they are beautiful, and they are interesting, and there is art. It's not drug receipts, right? And so, can I imagine in the short to midterm drug receipts popping out of an AI? No, because that took like intuition, inspiration, understanding of comedy, all these kinds of things that an AI will find hard to do for a while. And so I think we can see the opportunity for more creativity. And the thing that's exciting for me personally about thingies is not only do we think we've got some tricks up our sleeves in terms of what thingies can do versus what those existing AIs can do, and more interesting ways, I think, to monetize creativity with your thingies than they have, and more openness in terms of the community involvement and ownership of the intelligence that sits behind it, is that our community can be more creative. Like, we have this awesome creative talent within our community that's now building animations and games and creating meta stars and doing all this kind of stuff off the back of content that we've seeded. And now even more of them will be able to do that, because they'll each have their own personal assistant who helps them build art and then objects and then spaces in the future. And so I don't look at it as a scary proposition. I look at it as a really enhancing proposition, especially to the value proposition of Web3, which is about community co-creation.
I think you've identified a couple of things that are really interesting and important, that make a difference when considering AI and the implications for art and creative endeavors. But one is, you said, could you imagine the AI creating drug receipts right now? And the way that the Midjourney works, right, is you put in the word prompts, and then it creates art based on that. So you can say wizard, rainstorm, raven, but you can also say in the style of Van Gogh. Mm-hmm. So Midjourney doesn't have the style of Van Gogh without Van Gogh existing, right? So those styles have to exist. And there's almost, you mentioned when Photoshop came on the scene and how creatives had to kind of adapt to the new tools. It didn't make creatives obsolete. It just gave them more to work with. Well, similarly, when photography came around, before photography, people made photorealistic paintings all the time. That was their job. And it's like all of a sudden, oh, we're out of business. Who needs me to sit around and paint a portrait for 20 hours when you can take a photo in 2 seconds? But that's not what happened. Then you had to move. Artists found different ways of expressing themselves. They became stylized. Then you get the cubist and the abstractionist and the expressionist, all these different forms of expression. And so you can imagine a similar thing happening once we have AI as an added tool, but then humans get to find new ways to use it.
And it's actually one of the specific things that Thingies AIs will be able to do that we haven't seen in these other tools yet. And that is to allow artists to play a greater role in the product that the AIs produce. And so you're creating another role for artists in the creative ecosystem within the way that Thingy's architecture works.
So Joellen, we're talking a lot about this incredible art that these different AI platforms are creating, but I think we could do a service to our viewers here. Let's show. I know we've got a couple examples of what the Mid-Journey AI has created. I think some of these examples came from actually the 0x Thulu community, because as I said, they've been using it a lot, and we've seen a lot of it going around in some of our Discords. Do we have some of the Mid-Journey AI renderings? And since these are based on 0x Thulu, a lot of them are, you can see that the prompts are like tentacles and octopus and things like that. And some of them have kind of like a gothic dark feel. Let's see. Yep, let's show them. Sean, if you got it. Right, yeah. And you'll notice as we look, we're just going to look at a few of them here, but there is wide variety in the style and in the execution. And if no one told you that these were generated by an AI, you would never know. I mean, these are, it's not just good for a computer. This is really good and interesting art, well executed. And we should mention also that all this, the way that these AI programs work is through neural learning. So they are given, are fed essentially, just copious amounts of different prompts, or I should say photos that have tags associated with them, so that they can learn what the content of the photos is. And then they start to actually understand the relationships between words and images and how they are fit together. But Joanne, let's go ahead and show the next couple here. And the stuff is so cool. I mean, when I first learned, we all have the same experience. When you learn that this stuff is being generated by AI, it stops you in your tracks. Not just because the work is so stunning and impressive, but also because it makes you question, your value as a sentient being. Like, what is the point? Could I have done that any better? So we have one other image, or a couple of other images we can show, because Aaron, we've been talking about the thingies. And for our audience, I just want, for any of you that don't know, so behind Aaron, you can see a couple of 3D renderings of FLUFs. And FLUFs are those are kind of the characters, the avatars at the center of the FLUF ecosystem. But FLUFs have little kind of stylized spider companions that are the thingies. And the thingies have AI capabilities, which we've been discussing here. Joan, let's show an image of the thingies. Cute, furry little creatures, the thingies there. And show the next photo, because this is what a thingy actually looks like on the market in OpenSea when you purchase the thingy. But you can see the easel and the work studio there behind the thingy, just to give you an idea. And Aaron, can you talk a little bit about the pattern on the fur and the pattern on the easel? Because those are generated from AI, is that right? Oh, maybe I crashed. Is anybody there?
No, I just had my computer on mute. So yeah,
it's a tough way to conduct an interview.
Yeah. So with the thingies, we wanted to create a bit of AIception, and I think the thingies are the first 3D character that has been essentially created by an AI. So we built a kind of base model for the thingies, and then we trained an AI on a style of art that we wanted, and then it produced the UV maps, which became the fur of the thingies. So each thingy's fur is a one-of-one painted by an AI, and this might give you a little bit of a hint about phase. I think it's phase 3 of thingies, where we're going in terms of moving from flat art into things you can have exist in the metaverse. And so each thingy is a piece of art, and they were dropped alongside the kind of 2D version of that art but they were jumbled up. So only a very small number of thingies have the matching artwork that sits alongside their fur pattern, and we'll be able to play a little game with that later on. The other thing that's interesting is that the fur pattern becomes the brain matrix, which turns that thingy into its own artist. And so when you look at our first version of the AI that will come alongside the thingies, each of those 10,000 artists has its own DNA, which comes from the fur, and they will perceive the world differently. And so if you put the same prompt in for a given string, and did that with a bunch of thingies, they would all see that differently because their brain operates differently because of this fur pattern. So it's like an AI that is created, a 3D character created by an AI that also produces AI art, and other things in the future as well. I've got some comparisons. I don't know if I can share screen on this, but I can show you some comparisons between thingies and DALL-E and Midjourney, so you can get a sense of what's possible with the thingy.
Yeah, Joel, I think we can accommodate that, right? Let's have Aaron bring up his screen. Bear with us 1 second. We'll get this sorted.
This wasn't planned, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think I can do it here. Is that?
Oh yeah, cool.
You seeing my screen?
We are.
Yeah. Cool. So the first image here is DALL-E, and the second image is Midjourney, and the third image is a thingy. The interesting thing about those three, and they're all brilliant in their own right, and you would think, how did an AI paint any one of these, was the stylistic cues. And the thingies actually, this that we asked each one of these to make an image in, and I'll get the prompts in a second now. And stop sharing. How do I stop sharing? Oh.
So those were 3 images generated from the same prompts.
Am I still sharing?
No, not anymore.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so it was a bright summer afternoon with a flowing river in lush nature in Ghibli style. And so the stylistic prompt for the thingies, I think, comes much, much closer to what we would expect from that style prompt. So it's working really well, really well.
And does that how is that affected? Is that because you give your AI a preference for style, or is it something that
I think it understood,
learns more?
No, I think it understood the prompt better than DALL-E and Midjourney did.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And so so kind of putting these tools in the hands of our community, I think, is going to really enable more creativity and increase, expand human creativity as opposed to detract from it.
Can we show one more image before we abandon show and tell here for a second, Joel? But we do have something that your brother posted. One of your brothers posted of the thingies dreaming. It was a reference to the what was the Blade Runner book? Oh yeah, When Thingies Dream of Electric Sheep. Yeah. So those are, that's super cool images. Yeah, and you can definitely see like the stylistic influence, right? This looks like something artistic.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's a bit of a meme joke because someone said something on Twitter, and we decided to test thingies to see what they would see if we asked them that question.
Cool.
Pretty good.
It's pretty good. So I want to go back to something that you mentioned actually before we kind of went deep into the visuals of the thing. But you mentioned that the future is probably going to be humans entertaining other humans, right? As more and more of our jobs are taken up by AI and automation, we will move toward more creative endeavors, and we will be finding ways to entertain one another. But it's also easy to imagine, right, that entertainment will also be replaced. You won't really need humans to entertain other humans. Really, it will just be about being entertained. It's like I guess the bigger question is, once the central feature of existence and of our identity ceases to be our occupations or what we do for work, then what replaces it? Is it entertainment? Is it philanthropy? Is it just self-betterment? Like, what is it?
I think creativity is probably the way that I'd sum it up, and like entertainment's kind of falls into that. And maybe some of our entertainment, you can see a feasible future where machines create comics, or
create everything,
series and stuff like that, right? Eventually, possibly any kind of creative expression to a high enough fidelity that we'd find it interesting. But that just means we'll have more time to think about doing other things. And creativity is a big thing. It's like, okay, well, maybe we, put more energy into sciences than we do now, or like maybe we discover things that we haven't discovered about our psychology before, or, there's all these kind of different areas of creative expression that we can get into that we'll have more time to do. It'll be interesting to see how society functions when it doesn't have to do work. Like, is that something that's that is a necessary part of the wheels of the cogs of society, that we have to have something to occupy our minds with that is rote and prescribed? And if we didn't have that, would we just annihilate ourselves with the time we have? Not to say we're doing a great job of not annihilating ourselves with the time we don't have, but what would society actually look like in that context when you didn't have to do things?
Right. So what I think what we're talking about, right, are there's probably a need to be doing things that feel important or purposeful or worthwhile. Entertainment is a fine way to occupy ourselves. Most of us would be happy to sit on the couch and play video games or watch movies all day. But at the end of the day, it's probably not a very fulfilling or satisfying existence. So there has got to be some space for things which are meaningful experiences. And I guess it remains to be seen kind of how we will start to fill those spaces.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure we'll come up with something. We always do.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a theme here, as we talk about these things, right? This disruptive technology and having to adapt to kind of new models. But this also is kind of like it runs parallel to what's happening with Web3 and with the Metaverse, and how the opportunity here for that to disrupt so many of the models that we've become so accustomed to over the years. And you are definitely at the vanguard of that, right? You're leading the vanguard of that. Do you want to, what do you think about the opportunity for Web3 to introduce disruption, or for these models to change?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's entirely about that. The current creative business model, I think, is a relatively extractive one. And if we imagine that, the most important thing that we will produce as society through our labors is creativity in the future, then we want to make sure that the economy of that society isn't dependent on the type of gatekeepers we have today. And so having the ability to put communities back in control of the process of extracting value from creativity, giving creators more of a say in the way that their content is used, giving the rights to the data and information that goes alongside that creativity, or the value that's created with that creativity, back to individuals as opposed to being aggregated by corporations. Those are all really important things if you care about, if you think that the future of society is driven by creativity, then having those in the hand, or the control of the infrastructure of that in the hands of the users rather than corporations, becomes super important, because that becomes the economy. And so if your society runs on this fuel, you want to make sure that individuals are in control of that process, and communities are in charge of that process and that infrastructure.
So can you talk us through that a little deeper? Because, I came into this space as an artist, right? Brooke called me. We have a long relationship. And so I have been having to get trained up kind of like on the technical aspects of it. But as an artist or as a layperson, I look around at this space and you say, Web3 provides an opportunity for communities to, have ownership over their content and over their product. But it still feels like that, so we're drug receipts and we are making apparel that you can wear in Web3 on your avatars, and apparel that you can wear in real life. But, Nike comes into this space, and they are, they're going to come in with all their resources. It's going to be very hard for us to compete against a Nike. And I don't know how many things about the space make, the impact of corporations, that much different in Web3.
No, I think you're framing it wrong, because the job isn't to compete against Nike. The job is to make it possible for micro communities to be viable. Like a single organization trying to compete against Nike, that's impossible. Enabling 1,000 organizations to have viable micro communities that they can monetize, with low friction, and where the users in those communities can have a stake in that thing that they love, that disrupts Nike. Not us coming up like David against Goliath and trying to beat them at their own game. That will never work. But can we beat them by death through 1,000 cuts? Probably. And that ownership paradigm is what changes it. In the current environment, it's much more visceral in digital goods and services than it is in physical goods and services. And by and large, the future of goods and services is digital. We just simply don't have the planetary resources to be the consumers we are and keep consuming at the same level of physical goods as our population grows. That just isn't viable. So our consumption is going to shift to digital goods being the primary consumption. That's why Nike bought Artifact, because that's the future of future of goods is much more in the digital space. And so when you look at how you deliver that to consumers, you can either deliver it through the Web 2 way, which means that at some point that content resides on someone else's server. And ultimately, whatever the terms and conditions say in your terms of service for the website or whatever it happens to be, whoever can switch the data center off actually controls that content and actually owns that content. And so what Web3 does is enables community ownership of infrastructure, so that there isn't a person who can turn the data center off. And when your consumption of goods goes into that digital space, and all of the other stuff that goes alongside that, the monetization, even in the physical world, because it's linked to the NFTs, is stored in infrastructure that's owned by communities, then you have genuine ownership for the users and for the creators. It isn't actually owned by Amazon, because it's their server that it sits on top of, and they can switch the data center off. And that paradigm of ownership change is what's been really important, is the fundamental important thing about Web3. that's the thing that changes, is we actually have true individual ownership of digital things on the internet, which we never had before. Unless you were happy running your own data center and server at home, which not everyone can do.
No, that's super helpful. And you've explained it. You've reframed it perfectly. I get it. But there's one more step that I need you to get me to. So you're exactly right in how you reframed it, right? So we could, in the IRL brick and mortar world, we could never compete with Nike because we're not going to be on the same shelves as Nike in the mall or in the stores. But we, in the digital marketplace, we have an opportunity to get our product out there and find an audience. In the same way that streaming services kind of democratized music, where you didn't have to go through the major labels, you didn't have those gatekeepers, as you said, controlling who gets to hear music or discover your music. The artists found their audiences. So you get all these micro communities, as you said. So then the added layer with Web3 is the ownership, right? So you don't just need an online marketplace to sell your work. The owners are the consumers buy and own each piece individually, something like that. And I guess the last step that I'm trying to get you to walk me through, or that I want to bump up against here, is the marketplaces. So right now, it seems like most of the trading happens on a secondary marketplace, which is, to my understanding, doesn't feel that much different than having a Spotify, becoming the new gatekeeper. So we've got OpenSea, or Coinbase marketplace. Talk to me about that dynamic.
Yeah, really a good question, but fundamentally different architecture underneath those two things. So in Spotify, they're aggregating content, and that content is hosted by them. And so taking the sum of that content, which has the network effect in it, and porting that over to another application, if you don't like Spotify, is extremely difficult to do. And especially if you're one of the smaller players in that market, you go to Spotify for the top 10 artists that you like, and then you discover these other smaller ones. The difference in Web3 is I can go and set up a competitor to OpenSea and instantly have the network effect, because all of that data is actually stored in common spaces. And so I can now, and the owners of that content would be happy for me to implement that marketplace if it means I send more consumers to it, because they know that the smart contract's going to take care of the royalties afterwards. You think about like the content model in Web 2, it relies on kind of monopoly forces to be successful, because without that scale, it's hard to chase down everyone who owes you a buck, and therefore you tend to only want to do contracts with other large players, because that simplifies your business model. And so you get these kind of efficiencies of scale by contracting, because the process of collecting money is through contracting. With smart contracts, the process of collecting money is automated, and so you want as many people as possible using the content because it's easy to monetize. And so, if we someday figure out that OpenSea is not the best place for us as consumers to trade, that network effect of content is not locked into that ecosystem. Anyone can go and compete with that tomorrow and provide a better customer experience and attract liquidity to that, and use Web3 mechanics to do it,
But that's a big if, right? Because presently,
it's just an if. I mean,
is the biggest marketplace.
Luxria started from nowhere, had all the same content as OpenSea on day one, and used Web3 mechanics, and they've stolen 20% of the market share. That's an extremely difficult thing to do in Web 2.
So maybe it's a case of marketplaces are just a reality of commerce. Like, you need a place where you can go to find stuff, what you're looking for. I mean, because OpenSea will always, or even if they get replaced by someone that we deem to be better, as long as there's a place that people are going, then that marketplace will always wield some kind of power over the market, right? They can include you in the marketplace or not.
Yep. And it just has to be enough humans who care to want to make a difference and choose another choice. And at the moment in Web 2, making that, so a really good example that I like to use is often we'll see Facebook do stuff we don't like, or Uber do stuff we don't like, right? And you'll see this movement of, delete Facebook and fuck Facebook and blah, blah. But then what you're choosing to do is delete your network effect and delete all the content that you've created about yourself over time. And that people 9 times out of 10 think, oh, no, actually, no, maybe not delete Facebook and maybe not fuck Facebook,
Right.
But if they had a genuine choice, if they could pick their network up with them, because the data exists at a substrate that is the community level, and it's not locked behind those servers, or if
Right.
you could choose to use another application to access the same drivers, because those drivers sit at a data layer that allows them to kind of migrate and move the network effect of those drivers with them, then you open the door for a different competitive landscape. We haven't seen the full power of that yet in Web3, but the potential exists because the architecture is different.
Okay, awesome. Well said. Thank you for that. Now, so I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. But since you said, and I quote, fuck Facebook, your words, and if my mother's listening, excuse me. But so also, in doing my research and going on the Centrality website, and I've seen you guys, do this in promotions in other places, but one of your taglines, right, is unfuck the world. Which is a kind of, brazen and provocative thing to use. This is, Centrality is not, you've got a lot of employees, you've got a lot of influence. It's a big corporation, or it's a big operation, I should say. But then right there on your website, it's not hidden, it's a big graphic that says unfuck the world. And there's a part of us that identifies with that, right? As Drug Receipts, we have chosen to be a provocative brand. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around that. We get a lot of requests to sort of do collaborations with other drug-related brands, but we're not really a drug-related brand. Drug Receipts is not about drugs; it's about the provocation. We just happen to have used drugs as the mechanism for that. What do you see? Obviously, you have some affinity for the value of provocation. How did it come to be that you came up with Unfuck the World?
It was actually, so Nicole, who works for me, when she came on board as the head of brand and marketing, or chief marketing officer, did a piece of brand work around the Centrality kind of mission and vision, and the process they went through in that was really interesting. And they looked at what we were actually trying to do, and we were trying to undo, structures that had existed, and unbind people from corporations, and all these words kind of kept coming up around and so there was this kind of brand narrative building around and I took it to the next level, which was unfuck. And it was supposed to be provocative, because if you're trying to make change, you have to be. There's a lot of people who could take offense at that, but at the same time, in a crowded world of information, they might not have even looked at it, and so at least if they took offense at it, they've taken the time to think about it. So I tend to try sometimes to play the provocateur, because it at least gives you a seat at the table for a conversation.
Well, needless to say, we find a lot of community and brotherhood with that sentiment. Um, and in fact, it's interesting, even talking to you about it, because we feel like a lot within the community, right? This is something that we confront even within the community. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around what drug receipts is, and the bigger you get, and we are affiliated with some companies that are getting very, very big, and so there tends to be a kind of an aversion to things which are too provocative, or right, which could get you in trouble or might be deemed unsavory. So just to hear you, right, how you are of like mind, and even to see that not just that you are sympathetic or that you understand it, but that you have put it into practice in your own business, right? That is really heartening. I think that's really cool to see.
Yeah, and it's horses for courses. Sometimes you just have to be aware of the context you're in and the audience you're talking to, and choose different modes of being, either being provocative or engaging with those audiences. But sometimes it's a good tool.
Absolutely, absolutely. And well, most of the time, hopefully, it's a good tool for us because we have built our whole brand on it. We don't get to. It's always drug receipts.
Yeah.
So I've mentioned this a couple of times, right? That we did our preparation, getting ready for the interview. I said that I've read some articles and I've looked into your background, and we probably could have started with this, but obviously you've had a really interesting upbringing and an unconventional background. And my point in bringing it up is not to go too deep into it, right? You traveled around when you were young. Your family did missionary work and philanthropic work. You traveled around the Philippines. You guys traveled around the New Zealand countryside for a couple of years in a bus, a house bus. Is that, or bus house?
Yeah. House bus.
But so what I'm wondering now is we're having this talk about this tendency to provoke, and this you have shown a tremendous capacity for thinking outside the box, right, and finding novel solutions and looking for innovation before anyone else even can see it coming on the horizon. How much do you think that your unconventional upbringing sort of provided the space and the opportunity for you to be able to think in that way?
A lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd say it's probably the reason we're here today. There's no doubt that having exposure to perspective on other people's life outside of what is one of the nicest, safest places to be in the world in New Zealand, when I was young, traveling and going into third world countries and seeing how other people lived, that changed my perspective on life entirely. Spending that time traveling around, meeting different people, and gave me an appreciation for how different parts of society think about things, and seeing the haves and the haves not definitely changes, makes you more mission focused, and I think that's been a large driving force in why we've done what we've done, is to try and make the world a better place than it is now. That's come from the way I grew up entirely.
It shows in your work. And I wonder, as we talk about kind of the opportunity for disruption and disrupting models, it seems, education certainly is one of the candidates up for, in need of disruption. But you could also imagine how Web3 or the Metaverse could provide an opportunity for more people to have access to broader experiences, right? Something less constrained by region and by rote, curriculum.
Well, it's deeper than that. I think. I mean, the ideal. I mean, not the what's. If we build the open metaverse well together, the notion of many of the things that hold us back from evolving as society should disappear. If you think about all of the strife that happens around, conflicts between nations and conflicts for resources and all those kinds of things, if we can move the things we actually really value into the digital space, then we have the opportunity for unlimited production without the idea that resources are controlled by any one society or any one kind of school of thought or any one nation. Then we can operate differently as a society. If already, 80% of the value in the Fortune 500 companies is intangible value. Intangible things are what our society increasingly values, and the metaverse takes that to the next stage, and that creates a whole different platform for society if we let it. If we don't bring the baggage that has been driven largely by property rights and resource conflicts into the next version of society, into the metaverse, we can have a whole different world. And maybe then some of those things start to disappear in terms of the controls that exist because of those property rights. So what is the reason a government is useful for us? Well, they help enforce property rights. Like if all of those things that we value move to the digital space, and the notion of work changes and all those kinds of things, then and all of the things we can now build exist in that, or more of the things we build and value exist in that digital space, and less of the things we build and value exist in the physical space, then society can behave entirely differently. We don't have to have a lot of the problems that we have right now largely because of those concerns around property rights.
I will tell you, in order for what you're suggesting here and advocating for to come true, there's one other bit of baggage that I think that we have to address, and it's why it's built into the pillars of drug receipts. But it's the pillar of science and skepticism. We've said it many times, but as long as it's human brains that are moving into the metaverse, it's not just going to be the good ideas that are coming into the metaverse. The bad ideas are going to be coming too. And we will all have much more access to all the ideas out there. And without the skills and the tools to navigate through that information meaningfully, we've already seen the devastating consequences, here played out in real life and in real time. So we need to build better critical thinkers. We need to give brains that are moving into the metaverse the tools to be able to navigate through information meaningfully.
And the nature of education has to change to deliver that, because currently, the way of learning is designed for when our job was to do repetitive tasks in factories in the industrial age. The system was designed to produce people who complied and followed the rules and did the task that they were, had to repeat over and over in the classroom. Critical thinking was, destructive to what made society scale and function at that point. But now we need a different kind of thinking and different kind of education to produce those different kinds of thinkers.
Dude, Aaron, I could talk to you all day. This is really fun and interesting, but I'm sensitive to your time, and I just want to make sure we give the audience an opportunity to get in a couple of questions at least. So moderators, I'm going to kick it over to you. Have you guys got any curated questions that we can throw to Aaron before he has to jump out of here? Let's take a look. Fanfare. No. Okay. So Q&A. Let's see what we've got. Question for Aaron. What's your thoughts on the future of wearables? Seems a bit self-serving, but I'll take it.
You should say that.
Yeah. I just wrote that really quickly.
Yeah, no. I mean, so I think like the most interesting thing about this space is I'm really looking forward to seeing people think a little bit more outside the box about what fashion could be in the metaverse. The majority of what I've seen out there seems to be highly constrained by the physics of our physical world. And I was having this conversation with Snoop Dogg actually, and we were talking about imagine you could wear smoke in the metaverse, like the cliche thing to say, right? I thought I was cool at the time. And it was like, oh yeah, actually you can do that. Rain doesn't exist, wind doesn't exist. Like you could wear smoke. And so like I'm looking forward to like more creative expression coming out in wearables where it's interactive media content and it doesn't necessarily apply the physics that exist today.
Yeah, totally. Super interesting. Right. It's a blank canvas, and the what the opportunities are limitless.
Yeah.
Another question coming in here after building. Oh, this kind of feeds into some of the conversations we've been having about like purpose and motivation and what
Yeah.
we would do if we didn't have to do anything. But the suggestion in this next question is kind of like, you may have already achieved that. You are living the life that we are speculating about, could be the fate of humanity. But so after building, over 5 companies that have gone over to 100 million or more, what keeps you driven, right? What motivates you? Do you ever feel like, my work here is done, right?
No, I mean, I think the mission keeps driving me. I wouldn't be doing this just to like make a buck or survive. I think I can tick those boxes now. But I like the idea of making the change. I like the idea of helping to make other people successful. You said I've co-founded 5 companies worth over $100 million in 5 years. Well, there are lots of other people involved in those things too, and I'm helping them to become more successful and then make change as well. So that's kind of like the things that I like. I like that keep me motivated, is the mission of giving power back to people in the digital age and helping make other people who are on that journey with me successful.
Well said. Well said. Before we let you out of here, I think I would be doing a disservice to all the people tuned in. I'm sure they're, I'm obligated to ask. As interesting as this conversation has been, I feel like I'm obligated to ask for Alpha. You gave us some good information about kind of the next, what to expect from the thingies. Is there anything else on the horizon that we need to know about? I know we've just had a major activation with Gods and Goblins. What is exciting you right now?
Yeah, I just posted those images well on my Twitter if you're following along, so you can see the comparison if you want to go and check them out again. I'm actually excited to get thingies out, which should be very soon. And we've got like a few phases that'll kind of follow quite quickly after each other that will enhance the capability each time, starting with something quite simple that people can like get their heads around and then move them up kind of the complexity journey as they start to learn the tools. Gods and Goblins is super fun. The next phase of this is going to be really interesting. If you're following the path, going to be some fun and games played there. And if you're not following the path, start following the path. So both the content is super cool, but also the game I think will play in terms of onboarding new members to the community and getting towards the minting process. It's going to be a very community-driven process to get this collection to market in a way that I don't think I've seen in NFTs before. So it's not a product we're going to hand over the counter. It's something that our community gets to be a big part of along the way and share in the benefit of as it comes to life.
Something that has made, I think, you guys, leaders in this space, something that other people are looking to in this space for, like, as a model for success, has been the emphasis on community. And what a great job you guys have done at building community, involving community in every aspect of the operation, and really making it not just feel like a community project, but it is a demonstration of that. It lives up to it. We are really grateful to be a part of the community. Being a part of the extended FLUF ecosystem has been really wonderful for us. And even, I said that other people look to you guys as a model. We've learned a lot, just from being around you and the other smart people, affiliated with the projects. So thank you so much for all that you do. We're big fans of your work and look forward to many more conversations and exciting new developments in the future. Thank you for coming on, Aaron. It's been great talking to you. And hopefully there will be more interesting conversations like this down the road for us.
Yeah, no, very happy to come back and chat again, and thanks for having me on. And really, the only thing that makes this work is community. So let's double down on each other and keep moving forward.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Aaron McDonald, thank you. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Cheers.
Cool. So we said that it was going to be special. We had a special guest, and he definitely delivered. Really interesting conversation. And this is from someone who is doing it, right? This is everything that we're talking about, the future of the metaverse, the things that are possible. He is one of the people right there at ground zero, making it happen. So whatever we can dream of, right? We are a part of the team, a part of the network. And it starts right there with Aaron. We're the network that's making these things happen. So super honored to have Aaron come on to our podcast. Great to have some time with him. Now we can move on to some drug receipts focused information. We've got a lot of updates on drug receipts projects. I think we will bring up Jesse, and let's do some our routine checkup. Really? Boing, oing, oing.
Yeah, there's nothing like the cheap sound effects to follow such a interesting and high brain conversation. Just to break things up a little bit and bring on the not so high brain dynamic duo. No, sorry, Jesse, I shouldn't say that.
make a clear break between all that heady, really interesting conversation we had, and now what we're going to get into with drug receipts. But Trevor, as I was introducing Jesse, I thought I recalled our last podcast. I'm like, oh, am I supposed to be introducing Jesse and Trevor? So I'm glad that you guys are both here, because I think that this is the right way to do it. I think this is cool.
I'm still waiting for my fanfare and card, right? Like, I feel really left out. We need to sort that out for next time.
This segment is routine checkup. So we're all covered in the fanfare for routine checkup. Look, and Joel is trying to give you your moment to shine.
Yeah. It's hilarious.
Go ahead, full screen them. Let's do it. Go all the way.
What's that?
I said full screen them. Let's full screen Trevor.
Yeah, sure. Give me a moment. No, I just wanted to acknowledge Aaron. Such an amazing talk, such an amazing conversation. And it's no surprise why we have him at the helm. He really does understand this space better than anyone, and has the right kind of mission or the right agenda and the right intuition about where we're headed. So it's awesome to be a part of it. And yeah, just had a mind-blowing hour of really, really heavy and deep kind of insight into what we're a part of and where we're headed. So yeah, pretty excited off the back of that.
Totally appreciate that. This provides a nice segue, since we come out of that talk and we ended it on the power of community and what a great community the FLUF ecosystem has built. So we just recently celebrated FLUF's 1 year birthday, 1 year anniversary. And what FLUF did was, since it is a worldwide community, we basically had a virtual online party that lasted, bless you, Jesse, that lasted for 24 hours. On the FLUF server on their Discord. And drug receipts, we hosted 3 separate activations on the Discord. I think each one was like maybe around 90 minutes each, or even more in some cases. But so we had a lot of presence in the birthday party, a lot of interaction with the wider community, and we loved it. And Jesse, you led some interesting game nights, or we did some interesting games there in the community, which turned into, we loved it so much, honestly, that we've turned it into a recurring feature in our own Discord. But Jesse, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with the games?
Yeah, so as promised, I told you guys that we were going to activate more games in the server, and we did that. So we've been playing a lot more, community-focused games like TKO, which is this really fun on-brand game. Excuse me, guys, where you can, the first round, you make drawings. The second round, you make slogans. The third round, you randomize those slogans and drawings. And the fourth round and fifth round are community voted, tournament style kind of battles against cool t-shirt designs versus another one. And yeah, it's been really fun. We've actually had a couple of people that have made some memorable designs, and we'll show those in a second. But yeah, I mean, what we can expect, I think, guys, is a continuation of this. Is a proven. It's great to see people's creativity come out, and yeah, it's just been really fun playing with you guys.
Do we have? So, I think we have some images, right, of some of the creations from TKO. Let's share them.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's run through them. And I'll give you guys some context. So the very first winner we ever had was Abu Batal. I always hope I say that right. But Abu Batal made this super sick design.
Really cool.
Yeah. So as you guys can see on the left and the right, it'll tell, the right, it'll tell you, who provided the artwork, who provided the slogan, and then it's Abu's job to basically use those assets to create a game-winning shirt, and that's what he did. So I had to memorize or commemorate this moment, if you will. And Abu was our very first winner, so shout out to him.
I love it.
I'm not on camera, but I'm doing a round of applause for Abu.
Yes. Arlo, so this was another round that we played. I think Arlo and Trevor, you guys were there, but we did this in the FLUF server, and these were two popular designs, so much so that the design on the left, I believe that was created by Ajam in our Discord and FLUF server. He did the Take It to the Limit design, and we are still hoping that that becomes a real life piece of merch. Arlo, can you comment on that?
We are definitely making that shirt. Take It to the Limit is so sick. I love everything about that shirt. Yes. Yes.
In case you guys didn't know, TKO is basically our merchandising think tank. So any cool designs you make, we just might turn them to real merch.
You know what? This is a step on the path toward being made obsolete by AI. Mm-hmm. This is already taking me out of the process as a designer. We're just going to let TKO come up with our lines of merchandise, and then the next step will be, we don't even have to do the game. The AI will just do all this itself. But yeah, this is really funny and cool.
Yeah, definitely. So on the next one, this one is labeled Lower Your Standards, because it was so funny. You can see kind of eventually after a couple rounds, people's styles almost started to merge. So I love this one because they look like, sort of similar yet different versions of one another. You have this circular face with these head accessories. And I had to take a screenshot of this because it just shows how our community is sometimes quite in sync. So super good stuff.
Isn't that the secret to happiness? When all else fails, lower your standards.
So they say. That might be some people's dating advice. And then, of course, with time, we started getting so abstract. There was some abstract work, and then there was some really, we started getting a bit subversive. And so it was these two t-shirt designs in earlier this week. We had a really exciting community game night. I think it was last night. Sorry, guys. On Web3, the days just blur together. I don't know what day is what, so bear with me. But yes, on the left, you can see we have this super sweet minimalist abstract design next to what I think would be a shirt you would find in like a supermarket in a foreign country, where like the translation is like kind of there, but not translated all the way. I think it's supposed to say beach, but I'm not too sure. But as we got more into the game, of course, the subversive nature of our community popped out. And I won't show anything that's not safe for work, guys.
Whoa.
So I went ahead and blurred it. And if you ask nice, I can show you guys the uncensored version on our Discord. But the work speaks for itself.
Yeah.
It's up in the Discord right now. For any of you not following along, yeah, you can go into the Drug Receipts Discord server. That all that stuff's being posted uncensored. Yeah, you guys are up to something, up to no good.
Yeah.
But that's really funny.
That was the last game, right? Because if you put too many snugglers in a room and give them a long enough amount of time, it's only one direction that the creativity goes.
So, Jesse, if people want to do that, when and where can they find a game night?
Well, I'm thinking about making them on Wednesdays and then possibly Fridays during the day to accommodate for our Euro snugglers. I know you guys have been begging for some action when you guys are up, so we'll be coordinating those super soon. But along with TKO, we'll also look to incorporate poker, trivia, quizzes, and if you guys have any suggestions or anything, let me know. I'm always online, so which is great because this is upping the spirit of competition because we have a really exciting game coming up.
We do, yeah. Oh, I like the way you did that. But before we get into that, before we get into that, I want to wrap up some things about the FLUF birthday party because in addition to the game night, in addition to the game night, Jesse, are you going to play your Kanye? Now?
I know, right? I'll give you guys context in the Discord, guys. Don't worry.
So, so in addition to the game night, I said that we had a couple of other activations. I did a live receipt drawing, which we gave away at the end of the drawing and through a random spin of the wheel. And Jamie, one of our cherished community members, got it. Congratulations, Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie, I think she's watching right now. I saw a comment or two earlier from Jamie. So,
well, if you are watching, then I apologize because I haven't sent it out yet, but because I left town, but I will do it. I'm going to send it out this weekend. And we also gave out a
form. Don, can we get a token gated claim form so that Jamie has to validate herself before and all the details, and then we'll get it sent out to you in due course.
Exactly. Yeah, we definitely have plenty of ways to stretch out the timeline if we need to. But special grace skates are shipping also.
Oh yeah.
I love that you picked up where I was going with that, Arlo.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. But also speaking of, now we're just going to jump around a bit, but the hoodies made it to New Zealand, and I've seen a lot of people in New Zealand and Australia posting that their hoodies have arrived. So that's great news.
It was a lot of fun, actually. I definitely want to do it again, even though I thought it was going to be a huge job, like getting everything sent to my house and then having to organize it all. But it was so much fun going through the box and seeing how many had been opened and searched by our beautiful friends at Border Security. I'm waiting for the episode, because in New Zealand, I think you guys have it in the States as well, and probably in every other country, you have the Border Security show where they go in and they go through people's baggage and stuff. So I wonder if Drug Receipts will make an upcoming episode of Border Security. And then the best part of it was going into the post office. So in the post office, I rocked in with this huge box, literally on a trolley. I wheeled it in on a trolley, and the lady's face behind the counter was just priceless. I wish I had a camera rolling because it was just hilarious. And then it took about, close to 2 hours to get all of the packages boxed up. And there we go. There's a picture of one of the rated bags. That's me at the post office too. So the hilarious thing was, everybody that came in, so there were 2 queues, and I obviously occupied one and basically just hijacked it. And then there was a steady stream of people in the queue next to me, and every single one of them was just like, "What the hell is going on?" And you could see people reading the bags, they've got drug receipts written on it, and the people's expressions. I mean, you talk about provocation. I think I gave people some fodder for the rest of their day when they were out doing their thing. You'd never believe what I saw at the post office. Man, openly shipping drugs to everybody all over the country.
Yeah. Bags of drugs. They expect you to be like a switchblade into it, and like powder comes out on your blade.
Yeah, and we're not fucking about, right? These bags were big bags. It's not like we just had these tiny little. Well, I'm led to believe that people purchased their party favors in small packets. These were quite large packets. So
Well, now you're giving me second thoughts, because the way that I ship the receipts, the hand drawn receipts, is I roll them up and I put them into a pill vial bottle. And that's what I'm planning on shipping to Jamie. But that might raise some eyebrows if they inspect that. Good luck. Wish us luck. We're going to be sending some.
It's coming to you, Jamie. Promise.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. So that was the birthday party. Lots of fun stuff. And also we gave out, throughout all those activations, we gave out some drug receipts NFTs to different lucky winners. And those have all been sent out to the wallet. So thanks everybody for participating. That was a lot of fun. And we look forward to seeing you guys in some of the game night stuff that we'll be doing in our own Discord. Yes.
Sorry, Anisha's just said if it was New Lynn, it would have been just another Tuesday, and you have 100% right. It was at New Lynn, and it was just another Tuesday at New Lynn. Some of the conversations I was listening to from people in the other queue was probably more provocative than the one that I was having. Some crazy locals coming into that place there, doing some very, very unusual things.
I don't get it.
Before we move on, that's one for the
New Zealand thing.
Yeah, it's a Kiwi thing. Before we move on, I just want to try and plug this because I know we've got a couple of images from people who have received their hoodies and they've started, sharing that online. And I really want to encourage all snugglers that when you get your hoodie, please take a photo of it and share it. We really want to see drug receipts rocking all over the world and in different places. So take your hoodie to your favorite place, take a photo and share it with us, please. And Joellen, do we have a couple of images that we can show of a few people that have taken some? So yeah, you don't have to dox yourself. You just take a shot of your hoodie. Who have we got there? Shannon?
Cool.
Look what I've got.
All right.
Yeah, that's the package they come in. And here we have.
Should I dox him? Oh, he knows he's going to be on here. That is a lovely snuggler, and fluffuller. Zen, you love him.
Cool. Yeah, those are great. Jesse, you just reminded me of? God, I know we keep trying to finish the whole game night thing, but I just remembered my favorite part of the game night because the audio mechanics, we didn't have that quite dialed. So when we did the what was it, the murder one?
Oh, the murder trivia party?
But so in order for everybody to be able to participate, because the murder trivia party has a narrator, but none of us could hear it over Discord. So Jesse read or repeated everything the narrator said, but she put on this voice and it was so amazing. Like it really tickled me to my core. I don't suppose you got a little sample of it.
Come on, Jesse.
Can you do the voice?
On the spot.
It's actually my real voice. That's why my voice is happy. So I'm just trying to pitch it up for the podcast for the sake of everybody else.
So cool.
But
I loved it.
Maybe I'll do it in one of the Elixir game nights.
Ooh, there it is. The carrot for everybody to come join us on our next game night. Huh? You have to be in it to win it. If you're not in the Discord, you're not. You're nowhere, baby.
Getting to hear Jesse do the voice is worth the price of admission. It's worth your trouble. I would make a point of doing that. Okay, so the big competition that Jesse was teasing, right, of course, is Drug Wars. Trevor's got the propaganda behind him, flanked by his minions. He's got the FLUF and the Party Bear and Tabby. But so Drug Wars is here for all intents and purposes. I think by this time tomorrow, all the sites will be live. We've got the Drug Wars. So there's going to be a Drug Wars Web 2 page and a Web 3 page that will go up simultaneously. The Web 2 page you'll be able to access through our website. It's a full Drug Wars landing page. It will have all the information about Drug Wars. It'll talk to you about propaganda. We'll talk to you about the tournament. Talk to you about how you can build your propaganda. I think we even have a teaser of This Is War. I think we have a teaser of the homepage for Drug Wars for the Web 2 page. Yeah, exactly. So super sick. Really excited for you guys to be able to log in and check this all out. There's a cool look at the battle cards, which have been completely updated. The the legacy demo builder that we've all been using to put together our drug receipts teams, that's gotten a minor update, but we will still have access to that. That is still an important part of kind of the drug receipts experience and the drug wars experience, because for people that don't have 4 drug receipts NFTs yet and maybe can't get access to the official battle card builder, you'll still be able to use our demo builder to put together teams and see what it's like. And for the demo builder, you don't have to own any NFTs. All you do is you type in the number, the ID number of the NFT from the collection, and you can use any NFTs that you want. Even for people that already own NFTs, even for people like Don, who's already a Kingpin plus. It's still interesting to go in and use the demo builder because you can look for pieces that you don't have yet. You can try and curate and experiment with constructing teams before you go out and make any purchases. So the demo builder is really cool. But I mentioned the Web3 page. So if you do have the NFTs, then you connect your wallet, you go to the Web3 page, and that's where you get access to the actual official battle card builder. It's where you can save all of your teams. You get a gallery, a customized gallery where you can, each team of 4 that you put together, you add a team name, you write the lore, you go through all that work, and then you save it to the gallery, and it's right there for you. Anytime you log in, connect your wallet, you can look at it. If you need to make changes to it, if you've got an update you want to make to the lore, if you want to switch out one of your troops and your team there, you can do all of that through the gallery and the battle card builder, and you can change it all the way up until the point that you click submit and submit it for official submission and consideration to be included in the tournament. So that's all really cool. That's all coming in within about 24 hours. And I have to tell you guys, our timelines tend to get stretched out a lot. It can be frustrating, but there's also really good dynamics lying underneath it. Because of our association with Non-Fungible Labs, it's not like we ever just build something and then put it out there. There are rounds of review. There are securities that have to be vetted. It's not just us going, oh, that looks cool, click it, make it live. It's getting reviewed by the CTO of Non-Fungible Labs. So that is good for you because it means that you have got the highest level of security that's available in the Web3 space. We are extremely lucky to have that as a resource, but it just means that there is a little bit of extra due diligence anytime we try to launch a big initiative like this. So as I said, we think within 24 hours, we're going to have it all live. Thank you for your patience and for bearing with us, but it means that once it is live, you can rest assured knowing that your holdings will be safe or you're in good hands.
100%. I think everybody, everybody's feeling the tension build, and it's not a bad thing, right? Because as we found out in our Twitter spaces earlier in the week, there was this unleashing of propaganda or verbal propaganda from a few of our more vocal members of the community, and it felt like there was this build up, this tension release. It was almost cathartic. But I'm actually really looking forward to when we create the drug wars propaganda verbal propaganda Twitter spaces. I'm really looking forward to tuning into that. So keep an eye out on the Discord. I'm sure Jesse's going to make an announcement sometime soon as to when that will go down. And come one, come all, and bring your best one-liners, because I know Bildo's got a whole sort of full cap loose leaf book full of them ready to go, and he's dying to itching to get them out there. But no, we're all very excited for Drug Wars, but we want to make sure that, as Arlo points out, we do it properly, we do it well, and it runs quite smoothly, and everybody enjoys the process. So, I mean, there's a lot up for grabs. Are we able to talk about the prize yet, or are we holding back on that one?
I think we should wait. I've been saying let's hold back a little bit. Okay. I think that just launching the thing will be exciting enough, and then there'll be a whole nother element of excitement when we announce what the prize pool actually is. We have said many times that it's a really impressive prize purse. So I think it's enough for right now to know that in addition to all the bragging rights and the clout that comes with competing in drug wars and vanquishing your enemies, there's also going to be some good loot on the line. So yeah, there are layers and layers of things to stoke you guys out. Trevor, you mentioned like this, it's not just waiting for, we're trying to contain our own excitement to get this thing out. We're just, we're bursting at the seams, waiting for it to be in your hands. But there's also, we can see that that's happening on your side as well out there in the community. Like you guys aren't even waiting for the propaganda campaign to officially start. We have seen some cool stuff is already happening. Jesse, I think you've got some samples, right, that have come from the community. Can we share some of those?
Yeah, I do want to stress real quick that Drug Wars will release in 2 phases. There's the propaganda and there's the actual battle. So while propaganda will be officially launching very, 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 very soon, yes, you guys have already taken to town and gotten your propaganda out there. So I did screenshot some of my favorites out there so far. Joellen, may we? Oh, but before we get into that, I do want to take a second to acknowledge. Oh, no, that could be on the screen. That's okay. I do want to acknowledge Rollerblaze's excellent, incredible GIF he made with his party bear rocking a Drug Receipts onesie. You can't see it, but if you go to Rollerblaze's Twitter, you can find it. And I just thought it was super sick. So
very cool.
I just had to throw that in there. That's propaganda. That actually counts as propaganda. People
100%.
just don't know it.
It's not just posters. It's not just visuals. We want everything. Get creative. Propaganda is whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, go out and stick some real posters out there. Get some 3D art made. I don't know, tattoo your team on you. Whatever you need to do to get it out there. Commit. We want to see commitment.
Anybody who tattoos their team on them's probably got a pretty good chance of getting in, I reckon.
Definitely. But no, your goal in propaganda is to, yes, express your message, get it across, but also you want to impress the drug overlords. So
I think you guys just gave Don an idea for his neck tattoo.
Oh man, I want to see it. So this design is super sick. This came from Fletch, who is super active in our community. Very. I mean, look at it. It looks like a movie still. It's fantastic. But he's gotten a significant head start on the propaganda. And we'll move on to this next one that I really like. So this one's from Metaverse D. I love this one because it's a very subtle, not so subtle, but subtle nod, and correct me if I'm wrong, to Old Dirty Bastard, Baby, I Got Your Money. So I got to appreciate that. This is a gem.
Love it.
Theme. Oh, this one's rad. So this one's from Savvy Flips, who's one of our kingpins and a very, very active member of the Snugglerverse. I'm not sure what he's cooking up his sleeve, but it looks like he might be making a movie. I don't know.
Watch
Some
this space.
incredible.
Yeah.
Watch this space.
Watch this space. You never know with Flips. Could go either way.
Serious. I mean, well, as a kingpin, this one too, I want to also acknowledge that Flips has been also, along with Fletch, has been going crazy with the propaganda, creating this poster with a significant amount of drug receipts with celestial traits. I do want to remind everyone he is a kingpin, so he does own a massive amount of drug receipts. And, you know, people are getting really, really serious with their lore. I don't know what he's quite got cooked up yet, but it looks promising.
Well, so Jesse, you mentioned a couple of things that I think are worth highlighting, because the new battle cards, where people will curate their teams of 4, the back of the battle cards will have a place actually for lore on it. It's kind of like a baseball card where on the back of the card, it's got like the stats and a bio maybe for the player. So the back of your battle card, the front of the battle card will have your 4 NFTs on it. It will have the team name, but then you flip over the card virtually and it will have stats for each of the 4 NFTs that you have on there, each of the 4 characters. And it will also have about 777 characters for you to write some lore. So the lore will travel with your cards. And as people are reviewing and ultimately voting on which teams advance, the team name, the team lore will play a major part. Also, another thing that you can see here that these that our snugglers are using in the creation of this propaganda is the drug inspector. They have access to, you all have access to downloadable content from your NFTs. So you're able to go online right now to drugreceipts.com. You can navigate to the drug inspector and you connect your wallet. And from the drug inspector, you can download transparent PNGs of your characters. You can download the backgrounds by themselves. You can get assets, basically creative assets to use in the creation of your propaganda. And just as a little bit of alpha, some stuff that's going to be made available to you also once we get as the sites get up and operating, is we're going to put out some drug wars assets that you'll be able to use as well. Some drug wars logos and things like that, which will make your lives a little bit easier as you're building these things. And the drug wars assets you'll be able to find those in on the Drug Wars website.
Yeah, I love that last one from Jesse's in the Discord.
Chicken recipe.
I love that last one from Mr. Obi. Yeah,
we didn't even
he's tapped into one of my favorite ongoing comedy sketches that happens in our Discord about the eggplant emoji. We're really big fans of the eggplant emoji in Drug Receipts. So
Mr. LB comes by it naturally. I mean, his wife Jamie is the eggplant proponent. There's no like dignified way to say that or to give her some kind of a title that begins with eggplant. But yes, sorry guys. And yeah, Mr. LB, I wanted to say that he did some cool things with that propaganda because he actually isolated traits like the corpse paint and the ears. So some really cool and innovative things. And that is the point of Drug Wars and the point of propaganda, right? It's about creativity. It's a battle of wits. It's a battle of creative inspiration. And there's no wrong way to do it, right? It's just whatever you can dream up, however you can promote your team. As Jesse mentioned, so the Drug Wars tournament, the actual battles where you guys are going head to head and someone's getting eliminated and someone's moving on, that's not going to happen for about 3 weeks. So for the next 3 weeks, from the official launch of Drug Wars, what's going to happen is it's just about propaganda. It's about you guys being creative, making some noise, getting out there on your socials, getting out there on Twitter, getting in the Discord, talking shit, making posters, whatever you got to do. But over that 3 weeks, the drug overlords, this mysterious consortium, is going to be choosing who is worthy of competing in the actual tournament. So we're looking for 64 teams. We've got 64 spots that we're going to fill. So your job over the next 3 weeks is to make sure that you get one of those spots. And the way you do it is by curating a badass team. Find an amazing way to put your 4 characters together. You can match them by background. You can come up with a theme where you're matching traits. Again, it's all up to your imagination. Your imagination is the only limit. But so curate an amazing team, come up with a great name, write some lore, and then get out there and promote it. Do your propaganda. And whatever the best 64 teams are in the eyes of the drug overlords, those are the ones that are going to represent the tournament. With a couple of interesting caveats. There will be a mechanism for the teams that make the most noise. That is to say, get the most votes in Twitter. There will be an opportunity to get automatic bids. So you will take the drug overlords out of the equation. If you get the most votes, you're into the tournament. And there will be a certain amount of spots that are allocated for that. Those details will come out as we make all the terms and conditions visible. There's also going to be some spots reserved for VIPs. We are including special members from the wider ecosystem and beyond that are going to be invited to play in the Drug Wars. So we'll have some spots devoted for them. But most of the 64 spots are available for you, for drug snugglers. So curate those teams, do your propaganda, and make it impossible for the drug overlords to leave you out of the tournament.
Inspiring. Speaking like a true leader.
Boom. All right.
Mic drop.
Mic drop.
Does anyone have any questions
we're
about
excited.
Drug Lord?
What?
I don't want to open up for questions because I know where this is going to go. I know who some of the people are that are in the chat and in the Discord right now, and there's not going to be questions. There's going to be nothing but responses coming from these people. And,
so maybe we need to open up just a 24-hour voice channel. There's just a shit talking channel. You can pop in anytime you want to berate someone or say, talk some shit.
Don needs to get some sleep. Let's give Don a chance to get some sleep first, and then we'll open that channel. Because if we open it early, he ain't sleeping for days.
Well, so before we wrap up, another thing that we'd like to mention. Well, go ahead. Talk amongst yourselves.
I think I know where you're going. Can I bring it up? Are we looking frantically for the details of this next segment that's on the run of sheet? I think they're in our announcements channel. But what we are alluding to is our good friends over at 0xthulu have a mint that's imminent. And we're, as everybody knows, we're very close with the community over at 0xthulu, and we love what they're doing. So we were really, really stoked and honored that they considered our holders in their mint, and they have offered up for anybody who had a dark purple background drug receipt in their wallet as of about 20 odd hours ago. You were taken in a snapshot, and you will be receiving a free claim of a 0xthulu token when the mint happens. So that's pretty cool. We're really, really excited about that. And I think Arlo is frantically looking for those mint details to give you all. I know it's the 23rd of August, I'm pretty sure, but I'll probably be corrected in a minute. But while we're waiting for that, Joellen, I think we've got an image of the 0xthulu guys to show. Can we share that one, please?
Cute.
And this was done by one of our snugglers who I assume sits on both communities. This is Bullies Only, and this is such a cool tribute to the guys there. So yeah, dark purple backgrounds. That man there is receiving at least 3 free NFTs or claimable NFTs from 0xthulu, which is awesome. And those dates are...
Go ahead.
I don't know. You went looking for them, man.
We were trying to distract.
I was doing what Trevor does and just rambling while the things were going on in the background.
All right. I've pulled the information off of the 0xthulu Discord, and I encourage any of you guys to go onto the 0xthulu Discord. Join if you haven't joined already. 0xthulu is a project that was born out of the FLUF community. So a real example of the FLUF community in action and coming to life, and just how creativity begets creativity. And so now they are working their way toward their first mint. And as Trevor mentioned, 0xthulu it's a very closely related project to us. They're good personal friends. So we are happy to support the mint. And as Trevor mentioned, excited that we've been included in the whitelist. I went out and somehow I did not have a dark purple background yet. So I went out and picked one up. Although I'm afraid I may have missed the deadline, honestly, to be captured in snapshot. But we'll see what I can't figure out.
It was a mad flurry.
I saw a lot of them.
Right? I think we've sold more dark purple backgrounds in the last 48 hours than we have in the history of the project. So
very cool.
Apart maybe from mint day, right, which is when all of the dark purple backgrounds were purchased. But there has been, I don't know what the number is. Does anybody know? I think it was about 14 or 15 or something purchased in the last 48 hours.
Oh, the dark purple. Yeah.
Big run on dark purple.
I think it was like 20. No, I think it's in the 20s, actually. It might have been like 23 or 27. So thanks, Jacob.
So a bunch of people going mad for the drop, which is cool.
So speaking of numbers, the total supply, some quick numbers on the 0xthulu mint. The total supply is going to be 11,138. And you can guarantee that there is some lore or some mystery behind that number. There's definitely a purpose to it, knowing Jacob. What it will cost is 0.1 ETH. The free mint is August 23rd. You were right, Trevor. There will be a pre-sale also on August 23rd. These things are staggered. I'm not going to read the times because it's going to be mostly meaningless to you right now, but go onto the Discord or follow their socials. You can get all the details there. But then the public mint will be August 24th, and that will stay live until they sell out. So August 23rd, August 24th, that's what you need to know. The mints for 0x Cthulhu are coming up. And as has been well documented, good project over there, great community. So looking forward to that mint. Cool, guys. I think that gets us through it. I'm going to talk off the top of my head here, and this is very dangerous to do, but sometimes we just bring the community in to workshop an idea in real time. But this is happening more and more where we get through a podcast, and after we've done all the news and after we've had our guests and we have great conversation with the guests, it's hard to imagine going another hour into the skeptic conversation, which we call controlled substance. So something that has been percolating, just rolling around in the brain here, and that actually has been brought up to me as a suggestion on more than one occasion from multiple sources, but is maybe we will separate the skeptical content from the rest of the podcast. Skepticism obviously is one of the pillars of the brand, and we talked about skepticism in our conversation with Aaron. So it's not like skepticism will be removed from the project, but the actual focused skeptical conversation, we usually pick a subject and talk about it. I think that we will probably, or what I'm thinking about is finding a new home for it. Let that be its own content that lives on its own. And let this be its own separate content where we have a guest and where we talk about drug receipts related news. So that's not something that I've talked about with the team yet until now. It's not something that I have really thought about very deeply yet, but that is definitely where my head is at, because I regret, constantly running into these scenarios where we're just, we're out of time at the end of the podcast. And I think it's kind of unrealistic and unfair to ask all of you to stick around for another hour. And it's unfair to my cat and to my stomach to never eat dinner. So yeah, that's probably where we're headed, I think.
Why not?
Why not?
I think, Jesse, there's been a request for Jesse to do just a Post-it Notes podcast. So, it'll be maybe just some backing music and Jesse just Post-it noting her way through the routine checkup. Who knows what might come of this?
I see Jamie has made a request also just for like a kind of ASMR, just a full screen of Trevor just talking about anything.
About anything. Yeah. I'll do an AMA with myself.
The drug receipts team is a good looking team, I will say.
Well, we definitely know how to provide content. So I think we have a lot of opportunities to get some drug receipts branded content out there. Yes, and to be good looking while we do it, Jesse.
It helps.
Sure. It helps. Doesn't hurt. I'll give you that. So yeah, guys, I think that we are ready to wind it down. It has been a super snug and awesome episode. Really cool to have Aaron McDonald on here. Yeah. I know we got a lot of great content out of it. One of our favorite things to do is to take some of the best sound bites that we get from these episodes and get them out onto our socials, make them easily digestible for a wide audience. And I know we got a lot of good content for that today. So make sure you're following our socials and looking for that content. It's going to be easy to share, and it's going to be the kind of stuff that we want to share. Drug wars are on their way. Within the next 24 hours, we should be up and operational. So another reason to follow all of our socials at Drug Receipts. Subscribe and like Drug Receipts on YouTube. And if you're listening on a podcast, we do always encourage you to check out the actual video content that we've got here on the YouTube channel, because as Jesse says, we've got a lot of attractive members and it just adds something to the experience. But we also
you'd be missing Jesse's Post-it notes, which are a real feature of the podcast. So if you're not watching, you really are missing some of the best content.
Right. There's a whole separate dimension with the Post-it notes because no one says what no one's reading them out loud. The only way to get that content is if you watch it on our YouTube. So more incentive to sign up and follow us on YouTube. All right, guys. Trevor, thank you so much. Jesse, thank you, guys, and thanks to Aaron McDonald for being a guest on this episode. Bye. We'll see you all next time. Snugglers, thanks so much to all of you, as always, for supporting and for being here and for adding everything that you add to all these conversations. We love following you in the Discord. We love what you add to the chats. And we will see you guys in the Discord for continued conversation. Love you all. Thanks. And until next time, we will snug you later. Bye-bye, everybody.
Catch you later, mate.